begin. We have quorum for our public hearing.
Sounds good. It is February 8th, 2021, and the time is now 6:02 p.m. I hereby open Community Board 14's public hearing with respect to the city preliminary budget statement and the register of budget requests for fiscal year 2022. Each year, Community Board 14 submits budget priorities to city agencies based on community needs as determined by service delivery, budget consultations, and community input. Documents from the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget are available for review on the Community Board 14 website. I'm going to ask District Manager Sean Campbell to report on the board's comments on the fiscal year 2022 budget registry. Sean?
Thank you, Ed, and thank you, everybody. Yeah, so this is the part of the year where we've put in our budget priorities. Agencies have commented on those priorities, and now we comment on their comments. Obviously, we are sensitive to the fact that we're in a huge budget shortfall due to economic difficulties in the city. But there are, some of those economic needs that have been brought on by the pandemic have increased certain community needs, and so we're going to fight the good fight. And it begins with our own board. Cuts to community boards. We have a letter into the mayor. And as we pointed out in that letter, now more than ever, we need our most local level of city government to help city community residents with the many needs that the crisis presents. And the community board is the only agency in the city that hasn't really had a budget increase, a meaningful budget increase in the past 8-ish years. We've just barely caught up to the cost of living. So compared to other agencies that had double-digit percentage increases and then getting cut from the baseline is it's a different experience. And so we're pushing back on that cut when we've been asking for increases in our baseline for years to no avail. The next one on the list is the Department of Sanitation. And Ed, unless you tell me otherwise, I'll just go through them as quickly as I can and take questions at the end. Does that seem like the most efficient?
Sure.
Okay. And then, and pardon me too, I mean, the way I've listed the agencies might not seem to make sense, but welcome to my brain. And they're also sort of related to where they were in the priorities on our district needs statement. So the Department of Sanitation is second, and that's because this is sort of the most obviously observed and ill-felt cut in the city. Every day we're getting Department of Sanitation complaints, and they eliminated basket collection, and lo and behold, our commercial strips are dirtier. We have 54 dead ends in the district, and they completely eliminated MLP, which is Manual Litter Patrol, which is the unit that would clean the dead ends. So we're really in a bind with the Department of Sanitation cuts, and so we're continuing to advocate for restoration of the day-to-day activities that sanitation needs support in carrying out. The Department of Parks and Recreation every year just tells us for everything we ask them, says to please make the request of the local elected officials. And that doesn't not make sense for, park renovations and stuff like that. But for the kind of bread and butter tree pruning activities that Parks is responsible for, that really doesn't make as much sense to get that money from an elected official. It's inefficient for the city to take city revenue, give it to the elected officials who then just give it back to a city agency. They should just fund the agency adequately. So we're noting that. Our housing preservation development is a high up request. We were told that HPD would try to address our concerns in current resources, but clearly they're not adequate, or else we wouldn't be 12th in the city in terms of the number of serious housing code violations we have. More than 40% of rental housing would be deemed adequate. So we think there needs to be a better resourced response to to housing violations. Department of Homeless Services, we're getting increased reports on people who are homeless, and the Breaking Ground responds every time, but the people who are living on the street are often reluctant to accept services, and that seems to be increasing in the reports we're getting from Breaking Ground. Human Resource Administration never responds to our budget requests with anything meaningful. I think I even have the 2-word sentence in there, why bother? So unless Human Resource Administration is going to engage in this process meaningfully, it's hard to put in a lot of work and not get response from an agency. So we're going to turn that one over to OMB. I'm working with colleagues that if HRA doesn't engage in this process, then there has to be a different process. HRA has been great about weekly updates regarding their services. So we do appreciate the hard work they're putting in, and the and the dire situations that they're facing as they work with the city's most vulnerable. But it doesn't, but the budget process needs to be followed as well. So we'll work on that. Department of Youth and Community Development, we worked very closely with them when we held the youth conference last year, and we were impressed with how quickly they turned what couldn't be in-person services to something else. So we're going to applaud them for that and continue to work with them as we plan a remote youth conference this year. The Department of Transportation, just blah. there isn't, we haven't gotten a lot of useful response from DOT on our budget priorities. We'll work with elected officials to try to highlight some of the needs, but for years we advocated for get our Beverly Road Bridge and Caton Road bridges repaired. And now those projects are delayed, and again, we understand where we're at with the budget, but we want to make sure that the delays aren't exacerbating conditions so that they end up being more expensive. We don't want to be penny wise, pound foolish. Administration for Children's Services acknowledged and appreciated our support for their needs. The Department for the Aging, also an agency that's had to do a major pivot, and we will continue to advocate for funding because we're concerned that their resources aren't adequate to serve seniors in their homes. When they change services from on-site at senior centers to home service, it's a different ballgame and needs a different funding stream, it seems. So we'll advocate for that. We have a growing population of aging people in this district, so I think that this is especially valuable focus for this board. Department of Small Business Services, I think we had a sort of wacky ask in there where we wanted to work with the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment to try to capture some of the benefits that they reap when they film in our district to support small businesses that sometimes suffer when they're filming on commercial streets. So we'll try to facilitate those conversations and see if we can drive that program forward. Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, obviously in a very intense modes right now. And we'll work with them to address the current health crisis. We hope to, we'll be featuring them actually at our nonprofit roundtable at the end of March. The Department of Health and Mental Hygiene will be there to present on COVID testing and vaccinations. And we're struggling to ensure that the residents in our district who are having a hard time getting those appointments are supported in those efforts. And then at the same time, the rodent complaints haven't subsided, so we have to continue to work with them on that. Department of Environmental Protection, we supported their request for support for wastewater testing related to identification of viruses and spread. We're a little bit annoyed by their response that they need to study our chronic flooding locations because we bring those locations to their attention endlessly. I think some of the agencies, there's a drop-down menu in terms of how they want to respond, and that's just one of the things they can sort of click on. So it just isn't a thoughtful response. So we'll go back to them and ask them to think a little bit harder about that one. Brooklyn Public Library really stepping up on services in the community. And I know there's some upgrades at some of our local branches that are afoot, that are already funded, that we're moving forward. Department of Buildings, They did expand the number of building inspectors. We're looking for a little detail on that. I think that their response does seem to be a little bit better, but then of course, construction actually dissipated a little bit during the pandemic, and so it's hard to, we can't, there's not apples and apples to compare, but we'll keep working with them to ensure that complaints are responded to. We've got a few issues in the district right now that we're having a little bit of a hard time with, but I don't know if that's an inspector shortage. NYPD, we've asked for a new precinct house. I'm sure that, I mean, you know, everybody's going to understand that this is on a back burner right now, but we're going to work with them on upgrading the current precinct house. FDNY, some of our firehouses are being upgraded. And I just wanted to figure out what projects are happening in which house because the response was vague on that. Department of Education, they've noted that we are a community in need of seats for a long, long time. So I don't know what they're doing about searching for a site. I do know that we're continuing to add units to the district. We're becoming denser. So that need is becoming all the more urgent. And I think that, you know, we should be getting more information about their efforts in identifying a location for a school. And then there were a few other requests in there that we might not follow up directly with the agency, but the one thing I'll mention is it will deal with it more like a service delivery than a major budget request. But Newkirk Plaza, you might remember me saying that we took several bites of the apple for that one. We think that this should be a designated official public plaza, but the city sort of plays hot potato with it in terms of whether it's DOT or MTA or just unmapped ground. And so we tried to go back to DOT, to MTA, and to EDC. If no one city agency is going to claim it, but it is city public property, then maybe the Economic Development Corp can issue an RFP on it. So, well, I mean, there's no need to stop now trying to get Newkirk Plaza into the public sphere in a more useful way. And I think that's it. I'm happy to take questions, and what we are seeking from this public hearing is a board recommendation to respond to the city budget register with these comments as I've outlined and have written here and are posted on our website.
Okay, so are there any questions, comments from board members?
Steve Cohen.
Yeah, thanks for that overview, Sean. I guess one point of clarification I was curious about was about the Beverly Road bridge that you mentioned before. And it said, you know, it says the project's on hold, and you went over that briefly. I was just under the impression that there was something like unsafe about it because like cars weren't allowed to use the parking spots there for a while and trucks weren't allowed to go over it. And now it seems like cars are parking there again. So I just wanted to make sure there's not like some serious safety risk that is resulting from that project being put on hold.
Yeah, there isn't. And the reason why they were able to put cars back is that they did some sort of in between work. So they shored up what they needed to shore up in order for it to be usable by vehicles again and to reroute truck traffic back onto it. It's a temporary fix, but it's better than what it was before. And we have asked them to come for the transportation committee to try to get a full scoping presentation on that bridge and others in our community. But they do periodic checks on all road bridges, and anything that's been flagged as having any dilapidation at all, then it sort of escalates how often it gets inspected. So nothing's going to be on hold to the point of it becoming dangerous, because that's when they'll do what they did to Beverly Road when it was in that state. So I still drive around with a great sense of security for the roadway itself.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any other questions or comments?
Sorry, this is Dwayne. Just a question about, there's a comment there about the crossing guards, Sean. Can you just clarify what that is about?
Well, we did ask for an increase in the number of crossing guards, but you know, there was some difficulty filling those positions. There was a budget for them, and there just weren't enough applicants to fill the positions we had for a little while. And then I think we came up to a full complement, but you know, we always ask for more because they're never enough, and the number of schools, especially some of the private schools, have increased, and we've had additional charter schools. So it was, you know, just a request for more. But I think that I tossed it off to kind of a back burner because I don't really know where to direct the request. Part of the reforms include realigning budget to school security so that it's a DOE budget line rather than an NYP budget line. So I'm not going to ask NYPD for crossing guard funding if it's going to come through DOE. So we're going to sit on that until we know how to direct the request.
Thank you, Dwayne. Anyone else? Well, just one comment I'd like to make, and I'm just sort of throwing this out to all the board members. I'd like you to just give some thought to relocating the 70th precinct, the station house. I mean, this is something that the board has been hammering away at year after year after year for as long as I can remember. And, you know, it would seem like we're making progress, or the city is making progress, doing something about it, and then it falls through and this and that. So I think maybe, you know, if we can be a little more creative in you know, solutions here. It's a very, very bad condition. It's a very narrow street. It's shared with the ADAPT community network, and you know, parking and getting in and out. It's just a nightmare. So board members who are familiar with this, please give some thought and share your thoughts with the board office. If you're not familiar with it, you can get more information by contacting the board office. But that's something I would really like to see move forward next year.
Real quick.
Councilmember Yeager, I see your
Chair.
there. I saw your hand go up. How are you,
Thank
sir?
you. I think just for our collective recollection, I think we first got a commitment as a board that the city would give us a new precinct house in 1995, I want to say. So we've been promised this for on and off for over 20 years. And at some point there was even capital funds committed to acquiring a particular piece of land that then was no longer available to us. So this is something that's been a priority of the boards for a very long time. It's actually, I think the only reason that the board's boundaries are drawn the way it is to make sure that the precinct house itself was grabbed into the district, because otherwise there is actually no reason for that little carve out to go all the way up to where Board 12 meets in my district. So I would love to see this done. And, you know, honestly, I think we have to be realistic about what we're facing. The city is not doing new stuff. It's just not. And this has always been the problem with this project, is that whenever we get the promise, we turn around and all of a sudden we find that the city's not doing new stuff. And this is one of the first things that fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just add in the most recent chapter was when when OMB put $1 million into doing a scoping study to determine whether or not the current lot was adequate. If they did a knockdown and then a rebuild, would they be able to rebuild a big enough building to house the current size of the precinct? And they found that they could, but because of the location and all of the difficulties with traffic, out. They didn't recommend doing what they spent $1 million saying we could do, but we shouldn't do. So that was a sort of strange expenditure. But, and maybe, council member, we can talk about other more creative ways of going about it, because it's been mentioned a few times before, this idea of the city buying out ADAPT. If that organization might be willing to live somewhere else and give the entire block over to the precinct, that might be a less capital intensive way of addressing that.
Honestly, I would love to do it, and the truth is that, as much as I love where the precinct is, because it's, in the south and it's near my area, my district, but honestly, that location just doesn't make sense for the 7-0, given the geography of the district and where the 7-0's work really is. It's not the smartest place to do, and it's against my own interest to say that, but the best thing to do would really be to try to find a location more central to the precinct, to the community board, where it's smack in the middle, easily accessible, that the city can find. And there's, I think that the city, knowing that they're not going to do it, they've never really put the effort into trying to hunt for the real estate to do it.
Well, it's certainly something that we can focus our energies on, and our creative abilities, and see what we can come up with. I'm just asking everyone to please give it some thought, and contact the board office. I'm sure Councilman Diego would like to hear from you as well, and let's try and move forward on this. In the words of my brother Joe Dweck, enough already. Okay. So, any more comments or questions?
Regarding the 7-0, maybe we could put a subcommittee together.
Joe, I think you've been muted or something. I can't hear you.
Can subcommittee together so that we can unitarily go about this, maybe finding a location. Of course, I know that Cal and our other esteemed council people are all behind us, but if we could do some legwork first and maybe identify spots, and then really come together as a with purpose and focus, it might help to move the ball forward.
Okay, well, again, anyone who's interested in working on a sort of, I hate to do ad hoc committees, but working on that project, just contact the board office, leave your name, and we'll arrange something. We'll do a little quick meeting, of course, public, and see where it goes. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Any more?
Yeah, I was just going to see, without any more, I've not seen any more hands up. Just wondering if I can get board approval to, I will draw I'll make a more direct statement on the precinct house and ensure that it is expressed that this board is still prioritizing that. So I'll expand upon that a little bit, but that's the only sort of change I am inferring from the conversation. And then other than that, does the board approve the submission of the comments as written, even with my snarky comments still in them?
Well, is there anyone
this is Gail Smith. In fact, I thought it was well written. I did, though, pause a little bit if we're going to submit. Like, why bother? I mean, I get you and I feel you, but maybe you could just tamp that down a little bit. But I would have a motion to proceed.
Okay, adding language about the precinct, deleting why bother question.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for checking.
I second Gail's motion with the amendment.
moved and seconded? Is there anyone who is not in favor? Please indicate that at this time. Hear somebody? Oh, I hear Joe, but Joe, I can barely hear you. You're muted or something.
can we get more snarky rather than less
More
snarky?
snarky. Okay,
Have you met me, Joe?
so it's you know, hearing no dissension, and motion carries. So Sean, in short, do your thing. If there are no more questions or comments, we're going to wrap up this public hearing. It is now 6:27. This public hearing is concluded, and we'll start the official board meeting at 6:30 p.m. Talk among yourselves.
I will ask all participants to, right now everyone's pretty good, but microphones go on, microphones go off, we mute, we unmute. If you could just make sure when you're not talking that you're muted, it'll help with some of the feedback we were getting, and it will be appreciated.
Sean, before I actually have a 6:30 that I have to zoom into. So I don't know if I'm going to make it back to the middle of the board meeting, but I just want to say good night so I don't disappear rudely.
So Ed, do you want to let Kelman say a little bit more as you know, at the unofficial beginning to the meeting?
No. I have nothing to say. I just at this point they would just be filibustering, which you don't need me for. But I didn't. I didn't make it last month, and I knew you were having this, and I'm always interested in hearing the snark. Actually, I'm here for the snark. Believe it or not, Sean and I speak more frequently than it appears this once a month on camera.
She keeps it real.
Snark fluently.
No, it's true. I do. I want you to know. I say this. I know this is a smaller universe than the bigger meeting about the start, but I will say, folks who are not aware, board members who are not aware, Sean is incredible. I speak with her frequently during the week. She texts me in the middle of the night. It's all appropriate, I promise. But she's incredible on paying attention to the neighborhood needs, without question. So. Just want to give my absolute thanks, and I'm going to run to Zoom to the next meeting. I will try to get back in.
Thank you, council member, and back at you.
Thank you for joining us, council member.
Good seeing you, Mr. Chair, and Chair Emeritus. I see you there, and it's good to see you, Alvin. Good night, everybody. I'll try to see you a little later.
By the way, thank you, Sean, for doing all that work on the budget.
Oh,
Thank you.
great
Yeah,
job.
thanks. It's fun. I actually like doing it. It makes me have to think about the district through a lens that I find very interesting, and I really appreciate the community input. And it just reminds me that the hard work that Anya does the heavy lifting for on a daily basis in terms of service delivery all feeds into that. So it kind of ties it up with a neat little snarky bow. But thank you for knowing.
Snarky is the word for today. Everybody jot that down. Okay, it's time to rock and roll. This meeting of Community Board 14 is called to order on February 8th at 6:30 p.m. under the applicable statutes of New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. The board encourages detailed public discussion at committee meetings and public hearings. Therefore, there will be no public discussion at monthly meetings on matters addressed at public hearings or committee meetings. Thanks to the staff for creating a new sign-up system for the public session. And thank community members for their patience and with the system as we continue to work under the constraints of remote meetings. Any questions that arise from this meeting and specific service delivery requests or community issues should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by emailing the office anytime. Matters and announcements of civic interest may be brought before the board during the public comment period, which begins after all other business of the board has been concluded. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period are required to pre-register in advance of the meeting. Attendance will be recorded via WebEx rather than by roll call as we would do otherwise. Sean, I believe we have a quorum present.
You do, Mr. Chair.
Okay. One moment. Okay, the minutes have been distributed. Are there any questions or corrections from board members? Speak now or
Mr. Chair, I already alerted the district office, but I think on the top it said November minutes, and so I think just that you had fixed, and there was something with the pagination, but minor stuff.
thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah, we gathered that, Stephen. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
No problem.
Official record.
Any other corrections? Okay, are there any votes to not, and I emphasize not, accept the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are accepted. District Manager Sean Campbell.
Hi, me again. This is becoming a monthly ritual, but it's well deserved. I want to start out by thanking the Department of Sanitation's best garage in New York City, CB14. We heard a lot of positive feedback from the community about snow removal, and that garage said yes to everything we asked of them. That was brought to our attention. They did extra work to clear snow from DOT and MTA's areas, as well as parks assets. So they went really above and beyond. And they did this with just 4 day laborers. Because the garage is way out in Canarsie on Ralph, they don't get as many day laborers as other garages that are within the districts that they serve. But they made it work. So we want to thank them. Not to say that everything was perfect. So if there's something out there that needs some attention, just let us know, and we'll get them on it because they've been really responsive. I also want to announce and thank the Executive Committee for support on this. We received approval from the Office of Management and Budget and from the Executive Committee to hire a part-time community associate. Anya and I interviewed a gentleman who grew up in and still resides in this district, and this is really great. He actually attended the youth conference back in 2019, I think it was. So familiar with CB14. I look forward to making a more formal introduction once the city approves all of the paperwork and he's officially on board. But I appreciate the encouragement and support from the board through these months where it's just been Anya and I working you know, I think having this additional staff person will be a great complement. We'll get even more done, or get what we're doing done less tireless. We'll be less tired. I also participated in the PS90 task force meeting on February 3rd on behalf of the board. This is the HPD and EDP task force to engage the public regarding development at the Church Avenue and Bedford Avenue lot. And I want to thank that task force for expediting inclusion of the public. Those meetings are now added to the CB14 website under the projects tab, and we're still calling it the PS90 task force. It might be renamed in the near future, but I invite those of you who are interested to review the meeting on that tab. And then I just want to say I was really pleased to meet the new executive officer at the 70th Police Precinct, Captain Suarez, and look forward to working with the new additions to community affairs, Officer Natasha Mosley and Officer Michael Joseph, who will serve as really good complements to Detective Nuzzi, and look forward to meeting the new NCO officers for Sector Charlie. That's it for me tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Before I proceed with the chair's report, Anya, do we have any other elected officials who have joined us?
We've been joined by Councilmember Farah Lewis.
Oh, Councilmember Lewis, would you please address the council?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chair Powell, District Manager Campbell, the Executive Board, and all the Community Board 14 members. Thank you for having me this evening. I just wanted to give some, well, first, happy Black History Month, but just wanted to give a few quick updates. The VA New York Harbor is offering Pfizer COVID vaccines to veterans that are ages 65 and older. That are currently enrolled in the VA healthcare. So if you would like more information about that or need assistance signing up, please feel free to reach out to our office. And tomorrow, my office will be joining Assemblymember Rodney's Bishart File COVID-19 vaccine informational webinar. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. I could also share that information with you all via email. So if anyone wants to participate, if there's any skepticism on the vaccination process, we want to provide you with the information and speak to physicians that could give you more information on what this will look like. So our number at the office is 718-629-2900. We're Monday through Friday from 10 to 5. We're open virtually and by phone, but we're closed physically, but we set up WebEx, Google Meet, and Zoom appointments with constituents that need assistance from us. That's all I have for now. Thank you all for the opportunity to address the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis. Do we have any other elected officials with us at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. Chair's report. Well, I begin with the recommendation from the public hearing on fiscal year 2022 budget. As board members who were present will recall, just prior to this meeting, Community Board 14 held a public hearing with respect to the city's preliminary budget statement and register of budget requests for fiscal year 2022. Documents from the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget are available for review at www.cb14brooklyn.com, as well as on the evening of the public hearing. The members present recommended that the district manager should provide a letter to comment to agency responses as discussed at the hearing. These comments will be posted on the CB14 website. Board members, do we have a motion to approve this recommendation?
Motion to approve, Gail Smith.
Seconded.
Glenn Wolin.
Moved and seconded. All those not in favor, please indicate your vote at this time. Hearing none, the motion carries. Next, the report from the nominating committee. We have a report from the nominating committee which will be delivered by committee chair Dwayne Joseph. Dwayne?
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's staying nice and warm and dry. The nominating committee met on February 2nd. And as per our usual process, we unanimously came up with a slate of candidates to fill the roles on the executive committee of chair, first, second, third vice chair, secretary, and the 2-member large seats. Those roles, or the slate, the candidates for those slate, or those positions rather, I'm sorry. For the chair position, we are proposing Joanne Brown. For the first vice chair, Gail L. Smith. Second vice chair, Stephen Cohen. Third vice chair, Joseph Dweck. Secretary, Hindi Bendel. Member at large, Shahid Khan, and member at large to be filled by Carl Henry Cesar. We'd like to present that slate to the board. We'd also like to thank Chairman Powell for his service over the last 2 years. It's been tradition on the board that we grant waivers to our chairs that run our boards exceptionally well. Our chair emeritus, Alvin Burke, who is a friend to us all, a mentor to many of us, served judiciously on this board as a chair and made it what it is, helped make it what it is today, along with the support of the board members and the staff. Ed, you've done the same. Ed decided that he would step aside graciously to allow new blood to step into the board and keep it vibrant and active. And we appreciate your work, Ed, and we thank you for thinking of the long-term impact of the board and what we'll be doing for the community. So with that, I turn it back to you to take the action you need to take as far as requesting nominations from the floor.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Thank you to all the members of the nominating committee, and I will mention you individually in just a moment. First, we'll now accept any additional nominations for each office from the floor. So if there are such nominations, we'll start with chair. Are there any nominations from the floor for chairperson?
Glenn Woolen has raised his hand, Ed.
Glenn Woolen?
Yes, thank you. I don't want to nominate anyone, but not having a list of the people the nominating committee putting up for all these positions, I wonder if we might be able to run through that one more time. Thank you.
Sure, not a problem. Dwayne, would you mind please repeating your
Sure.
choices for? Sure.
Sure, and I'll add them in the chat right afterwards. So for the role of chair, Joanne Brown. Again, for the role of chair, Joanne Brown. For the role of first vice chair, Gail L. Smith. So that's Gail L. Smith for the role of first vice chair. For the role of second vice chair, Stephen Cohen. Again, Stephen Cohen for the role of second vice chair. For the role of third vice chair, Joseph Dweck. Again, Joseph Dweck for the role of third vice chair. For the role of secretary, Hindi Bendel. Again, Hindi Bendel for the role of secretary. For the first role for the member at large, Shahid Khan. Again, Shahid Khan filling one of the two member at large roles. For the second member at large role, we're nominating Carl Henry Cesar. So again, Carl Henry Cesar for the second member at large role.
Thank you, Dwayne.
And I put them in the chat as Dwayne was speaking. I'm sorry I hit return and it broke up, but they're there now.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, sorry for the formatting.
Okay. So you've heard the nominations from the nominating committee. Again, are there any nominations from the floor for chair? Hearing none, are there any nominations from the floor for first vice chair? Hearing none, Are there any nominations from the floor for second vice chair? Hearing none, are there any nominations from the floor for third vice chair? Hearing none, are there any nominations from the floor for secretary? Hearing none, are there any nominations from the floor for first member at large? Hearing none, are there any nominations from the floor for second member at large? I heard none, so the secretary will cast a vote in March at the March meeting for the nominated slate. And again, let me thank all the members of the nominating committee, including Dwayne Joseph, Florencia Chang Ageda, Ephraim Nuremberg, Mohammed Razvi, and Abe Treff. Thank you all for your service. Have we been joined? That ends the chair's report at this time. Do we have any other elected officials who have joined us at this time?
Not at this time.
No, Farrell's on, no? Farrell? I see Farrell.
No, Farrell spoke to us already. Okay, so we'll move on to topical committee reports and items, beginning with transportation.
Chairman Powell, I don't have any report for the transportation committee.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Youth services.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Dwayne, I don't know if you want to go, if I should go.
No, go right ahead, Jonathan.
All right. Ours will be quick, not for lack of substance, but because there are going to be action items for those of you who are interested in what we did do coming up. So we met on Monday, January 25th at, I want to say it was, 6:30 p.m. Online to discuss two things. One is continuing the conversation on the Youth Leadership Council proposal that we've been discussing for the last few to several months. We finally got to a point where we're ready for something for us to review as a full board. So what we decided to do was have that drafted in writing, which I believe everybody got a version of that in the email for today's meeting as the full board. That document is going to serve as the basis for the official review of exactly what the Youth Leadership Council will be, what the involvement of the different committees on the board will be, of the district manager's office, and how that program will generally run. We're going to review that to create a final version of it at our February 22nd meeting coming up. That's Monday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. It'll be online. That's our next Youth Services Committee meeting. And there we're going to finalize it and report out the plan that we finalize at that meeting to the full board for review and approval in creating a Youth Leadership Council for Community Board 14. In the interim, we are looking for any young people from our district between the ages of 14 and 20 who may be interested in partaking in the formation of this Youth Leadership Council to reach out to the board. I don't think there's a form yet on the website, but I'm not sure if I missed that. Maybe Anya or Sean could just let me know. We talked about a form, but I don't know if we got that far yet.
It has not yet been posted.
Okay, so for the time being, if you know of anyone who lives or has a substantial involvement in Community Board 14's district, who's between the ages of 14 and 20, and would like to get involved in finalizing this plan for a Youth Leadership Council, we invite them to come to our February 22nd meeting and email the board at info@cb14brooklyn.com for more details about how to join that meeting. We want this to be as inclusive, both from all the other ways we mean inclusive, including age in particular. We want it to be young people and teenagers who are helping to formulate this as much as the adults in the room as well. So we would like to invite all of you to come to that meeting and to partake in that finalization of the Youth Leadership Council plan, so we could sign off on it by the March meeting and actually start putting it into action. The second point is we talked about, of course, our annual youth conference. We are very cognizant that we're not out of the COVID woods yet. And so we're going to aim to do a virtual version of a conference because of a number of factors, including the Summer Youth Employment Program sort of not following the exact same blueprint as it has in years past. We have decided to aim the date for this virtual conference to sometime in May. So we will have more details coming forth on what we're going to do exactly for this 14th annual youth conference. So just keep that in mind, that sometime in May will probably be the date. Again, more details to come. We will, of course, discuss more of that at our February 22nd meeting. Just as a personal side note, I am very excited about the slate of nominees to take over the leadership of our board in the next term. And I'm just so excited to hear Joanne Brown's name mentioned as chair for so many reasons, but in particular because she has shared the same heart as many of us who have been hard and diligent workers of the youth conference. She, of course, herself has volunteered diligently for the youth conference over the years, and I'm just very excited about all the new faces that'll be on the executive committee going forward. So I just want to say that, and that's it for the Youth Services Committee report. Unless I missed anything, Joanne.
No, you didn't, but I would like to add just a couple of points. Just for the board, as Jonathan mentioned, we have been talking about the Youth Council for a while. And I just want to remind everyone, through those discussions, we have met with the board to discuss them, and chairmen of each committee to discuss them. Moving forward, we've had buy-in from all of the co-chairs of the committees. So we expect this process to move pretty quickly once we get everything kind of framed out and finalized. So we look forward to your participation with that. And also a reminder for the youth conference, since we're going virtual this year, we really, really do need your help to expand our base of participants as far as the organization. So if you know anyone that's willing to do virtual internships, programming, anything like that, businesses that can do workshops for our young people via the web or Zoom or anything like that, teleconferencing, please reach out to them. If we start working on those relationships right now, we can have a really, really robust and engaged youth conference when the time comes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great. It's so gratifying to see, all the activity that's been generated on behalf of young people in our board district, and even outside of our board district. I understand people are participating. So kudos to everyone who has participated on youth services, human services.
Oh, I was asked to quickly do this. Baza was unable to join us unexpectedly this evening. So just quickly, the Human Service Committee did meet on Tuesday, January 19th via WebEx. We're joined by Tejumade Ajayoba from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, who provided a COVID-19 vaccine update. We also were joined with the indefatigable Monique Waterman, our Brooklyn Borough Outreach Director from Health and Hospitals, Test and Trace Corps, and she also provided Core 4 COVID-19 reminders, as well as testing and vaccination information. Other resources shared included the COVID-19 hotel program, location of testing sites, and other social services for infected Brooklynites. The committee's last order of business was a discussion of plans for the next nonprofit roundtable scheduled tentatively, well, really, it's scheduled. I'm just going to go ahead and say scheduled for Tuesday, March 22nd. And there's going to be more to come on that, but the focus will be COVID-19 and impacts on our local community-based organizations. We'll be joined by HHC, DOHMH, and other offices that are assisting residents and businesses in the wake of the pandemic. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Education, libraries, and cultural affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do not have our spring meeting scheduled yet, but Carl and I will update the board once that's been scheduled. For now, our tentative plan for that meeting is to basically wrap up the year in education, provide an overview on current library programming, and hopefully provide some information for outdoor cultural events for when the weather's warmer and there's less snow on the. The other thing we wanted to provide an update because our back in December we had Brooklyn College professor David Bloomfield talk, and Carl summarized that for the board last month. But basically, during the course of that talk, some of our members had asked for some basically data about enrollment changes, and while the professor provided some broad overview, there were a bunch of unknowns. So there was actually a City NY article that was republished in Brooklyner that had some really that had data broken down by schools and that had data for citywide. So we thought that we'd just update the board because, especially because some of our committee members and others expressed interest in knowing that information and how it pertains to schools in the district. Overall citywide enrollment in schools is down 4%, or about 43,000 students this academic year. That includes a 6% reduction in enrollment in elementary schools, 7% reduction in Black students citywide, 6% for white students, and 4% for Hispanic students. The reasons that have been given for reduction in enrollment, some parents have moved to homeschooling. There have been people who moved out, obviously. Some families have decided to send their kids to private or charter school instead of the public schools. There's also older students who unfortunately have dropped out of the school system, maybe for monetary reasons to help contribute to financial situation of their families. Education department officials are conducting extensive outreach to increase enrollment in pre-K, which is still allowing for enrollment this academic year, so that's something to keep in mind. School budgets are tied to enrollments, as the article emphasized, which I will post in the chat once I'm done speaking. So that could cause problems to the extent school budgets are reduced. Some of our city lawmakers are pushing back against those budget cuts. But just to quickly give an overview, because they did go school by school, so we were able to get some data for schools in the district. So on that list, I counted 12 public schools in our district, and those 12 public elementary schools, that is. Those had a total enrollment dip of 450 students. That's about 38 students per school. So a median enrollment dip of about 5.5%. PS 315 and 152 together had a combined loss of enrollment of over 120 students. I think that was something like a 10% dip in enrollment. Most of the other public elementary schools in the district also had dips in enrollment. I'm not going to list them all out, but 9 of the other 10 had dips in enrollment. The story is a little less clear for junior high schools and high schools. Didn't miss junior high had a enrollment drop of about 60 students, 5%. Huddy had a dip of about 100 students. That was about 14% drop in enrollment. But meanwhile, IS 381 increased by 31 students, which was 11% increase. Midwood and Morrow both had modest increases in enrollment, actually. And then the Erasmus High School was actually broken down into it's like 5 different sub schools. So that was there wasn't a clear picture coming out of that. I think there was a modest increase in enrollment if you add it all up. You know, probably about 1%, about 25 students. And the only charter school in the district that I saw listed was Brooklyn Dreams, which had an increase of about 35 students, which was about 5.5% increase in enrollment. So just wanted to provide an update to folks who might be interested in the enrollment changes for the district. That's about it, Mr. Chair.
Before, may I ask a question, Stephen?
Yes.
I'm just curious about PS 139 and 217.
139 was a dip by 60 students, 6.73%. 217 was a dip of 65 students, 5.8%. So pretty close to each other.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Ed, can I ask
Someone
a
else?
question
Go
also?
Tell me.
Steve, thank you very much. Steve, is there any historical verification of such dips in public school enrollment?
I didn't see that really discussed in the article. You know, it did seem like, you know, from what the article was saying, certainly on the elementary school side, this, you know, it was basically an abnormal year because of, you know, what's going on with COVID and all, you know, the reasons that, you know, because of move outs and because of homeschooling and shifts to private or charter schools, that these dips might be a blip. But, you know, there wasn't much said in terms of forecasting, you know, longer term what this might mean, and there wasn't any sort of school by school like historical data points to line things up. Though I'm sure there's other resources online that that information could be grabbed from, because I feel like I've seen that before.
This is Gail Smith again. Is there anyone within the Board of Ed that could come and speak at your committee on these issues? I think it would be helpful, especially for those who have been lost in the system. And for many of them, they are children of color, and they are not lost because they went to a better school and things of that nature. They have dropped off and dropped out. So it would be good if we get some more information on that.
Yeah, understood. And I think we definitely love to have someone like that at our third meeting of the year. The Brooklyn College professor we had the last time was very helpful in discussing those sorts of topics. But yeah, I understand, Gail, that this is a topic that's on the top of everyone's mind. All the, you know, the COVID's impact on education this year. So yeah, it would be great if we can get someone from Board of Ed or, you know, anywhere else that, you know, could really talk to these issues, because I think they're really on top of the community's mind.
Steve, to Gail's point, do we think the person whom Sean and Anya had helped us connect with in our first meeting, I think Mr. Graham, do we think he would be helpful? Like, he had also, you know, Sean and Anya had also forwarded that one Brooklyn North. Do we think maybe we'd want to re-engage with him in that office and see if for the next meeting that is somebody we could bring in? Or
yeah, well, we can further discuss that. We can further discuss that, you know, who makes the most sense to bring in. Right, but yeah, I think Gail's point is well taken.
Yeah, we got you, Gail. We'll put our minds together and see what we can do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Ed, you're on mute. If you're trying to move us to the next committee report, I believe you're muted.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Public safety.
Hi, I am going to just let the board know on behalf of Steve Plotzker, he just had to hop off, the chair of public safety. He had to hop off and attend another meeting. So he just wanted to let the board know that he sends his greetings and has no report.
Leave it. Ed, can we please schedule a subcommittee to look into the 7-0 precinct relocation? if we could schedule some sort of subcommittee on the schedule so people can attend if they want to.
Joe, I have no objection to doing that. However, we should do it through the board office. We should do it. So let's coordinate that with Sean.
Okay.
So,
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, community environment.
Yeah, we have a meeting next week on the 16th at 6:30 online. And during that meeting, we're going to get a presentation from Parks talking about what's new in open space and greening in the district and some other smaller topics. So hopefully people will be able to make it on the 16th. That's it.
Thank you, Don.
Oh, could I just add a few things?
Of course.
Yeah, so I attended an online presentation regarding plastic and plastic waste, and wow, it's scary. That's all I can say. Stop using plastic.
Yeah.
And also, I had attended something regarding the Brooklyn Greenway, and I had reached out to somebody on the with Bike New York, who's also involved in the Brooklyn Greenway, and had given, I think I gave his name and email to Sean. I don't know if it's progressed anywhere at this point, but I was hoping that at some point this spring we could hear from John Orcutt.
Yeah, Nina, I believe we have that in the works and are hoping to get that scheduled up.
Okay, so keep me posted.
Yeah, and same. Thank you. And thank you for attending that. And we look forward to more information at the next meeting.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, then that moves us to ad hoc committees. And I'm going to ask Steve Cohen and John Judge, either of you can give us a report on the bylaws committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll jump in, and if Jonathan has any corrections or additions, he can feel free to mention those as well. So the bylaws committee, we had our first meeting on Tuesday, February 2nd. Jonathan and I agreed to serve as committee co-chairs. We had a spirited discussion about how we should approach amending the bylaws. Heard from just about all the committee members, and folks had a lot of great ideas about how to go about approaching this. Bylaws were last amended in 2015. We discussed numerous issues that we had observed with basically the bylaws that we intend to address in the coming months. So our tentative schedule that we set up is next to meet in early March to address changes to bylaws articles 1 through 4, and then meet the following month, the plan being to address articles 5 through 7, and then in May 8 through 12, which is the end, and then as well as a meeting in June reserved for final review and or if extra time is needed for any of the earlier articles I just mentioned. And then the tentative plan would basically be to present the proposed amended bylaws for the September board meeting. And in advance of our March meeting, I agreed to circulate a collection of proposals for changes to the bylaws based on items that folks have sent in or mentioned to date, so we can further that discussion at our March meeting.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And I just also want to thank and acknowledge the other members of the bylaws committee who volunteered and took their time to deliberate and help to develop some changes to the bylaws. Hopefully this time we'll really get something done. I'm just going to run through the names: Florencia Changagata, Edward Sen, Carl Henry Cesar, Steve Cohen, Joe Dweck, Ann Gaudette, John Judge, Ephraim Nuremberg, Deborah Valentin, and Glenn Boland. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So this now moves us to our public comment period. And board members are expected to remain for the public comment period. And because we are meeting remotely, all speakers were asked to pre-register via email to the board's office. Any member of the public who was not able to register in time can follow up directly with the board and staff to request that announcements get posted on the CB14 website. Matters of civic interest and announcements of public events are invited. No partisan political appeals, service delivery requests, or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Each speaker will be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. All groups must have a single representative. It is now 7:13, and I'm going to ask Anya Hoyer to coordinate the order of the registered speakers. Anya?
Anya, while you're looking that up, just for the record, I will be keeping time.
Excellent.
Okay, we have 15 registered speakers this evening. So I'm going to list the first 3 and just so you can be ready, and when you hear your name called by the chairman, you can begin. The first is Eileen Mulaney Newman from the Borough Hall. Second, Gabrielle Torres, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's office. And the third, Alicia Goodridge, Assemblymember Richardson's office.
To first speaker, please proceed.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Just a friendly reminder for CB members whose term is up in 2021, please reapply. Now, I don't have the list of reapplications as yet because we are working remotely and I don't have access to the file. I understand I will have it tomorrow. I did send out a friendly reminder today to everyone. And so if you haven't reapplied, please do so if you wish to stay on the board. Also, if you are interested in joining the community board, please apply. The application can be found on the CB14 website and also on the Borough Hall website, which is brooklyn-usa.org. And that's it.
Thank you. Gabrielle Torres. Gabrielle Torres.
Anya, you're muted.
I don't see Mr. Torres online at this moment. Is Alicia Goodridge, the third speaker, on the line? If not, we will move on to Cheryl Love from Canva.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Ms. Love.
Hi. First, let me say it's a pleasure to speak to you all tonight. My name is Miss Love, Cheryl Love, and I work for Canva as a SNAP enroller. And what I do is help people apply for food stamps or SNAP benefits. And so I'm there in the office at 21 Snyder Avenue in East Flatbush, there between Bedford and Flatbush Avenue. And people, they can come in and see me. I help them, like I said, go through the whole process of applying for SNAP benefits. It's best to give me a call first. My phone number is 929-489-9191 because I like to do a pre-screening with the client first before they come in. We ask that you wear a mask, and the days that we're available is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. but you have to call me first so that I can do a pre-screening and make sure that you are eligible to apply for the SNAP benefits. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Love.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next speakers on our list are Charles Moran from the Brooklyn Public Library, followed by Harry Bubbins regarding the Flatbush Savings Bank, followed by Bridget Ingram Roberts, Public Affairs Director, Coney Island Hospital. We'll begin with Charles Moran.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for letting me speak to you all. I'm just here to report about Kensington Library. I work for Kensington Library at 4207 18th Avenue. And like many of our libraries, we're doing grab-and-go services for books, DVDs. There's a generous fine forgiveness. Past year, you can come in and fines will be forgiven. For the month of February, BPL is offering up many virtual Black History Month programming. Kensington itself is doing programming of on February 11th, February 17th, and February 18th, 3 different kinds of programs that can be searched online, connecting to Brooklyn Public Library's website and then selecting Kensington. One is a literary trivia Black History Month program for adults. And there's a giveaway for the winners. And we have a musical story time that's on February 11th, where our talented librarian who can play the horn will play a horn while reading Charlie Parker book to children. And February 17th, we are hosting Kids Explore Shirley Chisholm, the poet who ran for president in 1972, I believe, if I got it right. Yeah, those are our programs that Kensington Library is offering. We also are offering, and if you periodically check in and look at our Facebook page or our website, you could see that we're going to do grab and go crafts where we offer up little packets of crafts for children to grab, and then later on they'll be able to connect to a video to see the instructions to build these crafts and stuff with some of our talented staff. So that's like a summary of the things that we're doing for February. Still trying to connect to the community and be there for everyone. Hopefully in the future, maybe March or April, we will be able to do remote printing for people, but that's still in the works. Still trying to figure out some of the safety protocols and stuff like that. Thank you again for letting me speak, and Charles Moran, Brooklyn Public Library.
Thank you. Harry Bubbins?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Now we can't, Mr. Bubbins.
Mr. Bubbins, it looks like there might be a bandwidth issue. I recommend turning off your camera if possible. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Sorry about that. Thanks a lot. I'm Harry. I'm one of the researchers with Respect Brooklyn. We're a local advocacy organization, and I put some links in the chat earlier about what I'll share now. I'm here to talk about one building, the former Flatbush Savings Bank, but I'm also here because so many buildings are being demolished in Community Board 14. And the last individual landmark was designated in 2012. Some of you might remember the Art Deco Sears building. So that's 9 years ago, and not one other individual landmark has been designated. Now the Flatbush Savings Bank at 1045 Flatbush Avenue at the corner of Doria Place, right by Beverly Road, is in danger of being demolished. Some of you may know some of the history. It opened in 1927. It's actually older than the King's Theater on the same block. Its architects were Halsey, McCormick, and Helmer. They designed the Williamsburg Bank, which is a landmark, and they designed the Ridgewood Bank in Queens, which is also a landmark. So it's pretty disappointing that one of their gems in our community board is not yet a landmark. We've have over 200 people have signed a petition. We have written a request to the Landmarks Preservation Commission to evaluate the building. The Brooklyn Borough President, Eric Adams, has written to the LPC in support of that request. And we just want to raise this issue with the community board. There's some links in the chat if you want to learn more about the rich architectural history. And we hope that the Flatbush Savings Bank at 1045 Flatbush Avenue will be landmarked by the city, and that they will consider some other threatened gems in Community Board 14. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for sharing that information, Mr. Bubbins. Who are the next three speakers?
Okay. The next three registered speakers are Bridget Ingram Roberts from Coney Island Hospital, Keisha White, Community Tax Aid, and Stephen Beasley from New York Presbyterian, Brooklyn.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Ingraham Roberts. I'm the new Director for Strategic Initiatives and Public Affairs at Coney Island Hospital. I've been at the facility a little over 2 months, and so I have been making the rounds virtually to all the community boards that represent the patients that attend Coney Island Hospital to introduce myself and to let everyone know that I am available if you should need to reach out to me regarding any concerns regarding the hospitals and providing care to the residents of South Brooklyn. Just really quickly, as many of you know, Coney Island Hospital is providing COVID-19 vaccinations to our patients, to community residents, and to our employees. Right now, we are really focused on registering as many seniors as we can. We've been partnering with elected officials to assist seniors in getting their vaccinations at our facility. So just wanted you to know that that's happening there. As you know, the governor announced next week that there will be opening up the eligibility for folks that can get vaccinated to include those with underlying health conditions. And so that will begin on February 15th. We'll begin vaccinating folks with underlying health conditions. And so we just encourage everyone to use the portal that is on the New York City Department of Health's website to ensure that they meet the eligibility criteria and they are able to locate the various vaccine centers in South Brooklyn. We also continue to provide COVID-19 testing. Right now, the testing is being done in a tent on the grounds at Coney Island Hospital, but due to the very frigid temperatures of the winter months, we will soon be moving COVID-19 testing to the first floor of our main building from the tent. It's a more comfortable and a warmer location and can withstand inclement weather. So those are just some quick updates I wanted to provide the community board with in terms of vaccines and COVID-19 testing, and to also let you know that I am here if you have any questions and you would like to, if you're interested in partnering on any issues, or if you just have questions in general about services provided at the facility. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Dwayne Joseph.
Yes.
Would I be able to ask a quick question to Ms. Ingram?
Okay.
Hi,
Ms. Ingram.
Sure. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Just a couple of questions. One, do you have, is Coney Island Hospital going to be, or the New York State Health and Hospitals going to be extending vaccination to any of their Gotham centers, and are any of those centers in the catchment covered by Coney Island Hospital? That's question number one, if I may. And two, the site for vaccine finding is not up to date. So is there any way to get that up to date?
So number one, regarding Gotham Health Centers, those are, as you know, the large health centers that are part of the New York City Health and Hospitals. And we do have several Gotham centers in Brooklyn, not in the immediate South Brooklyn catchment area. There is sites at, I think it's Cumberland. There's a site at East New York. So we do have large health centers that are in Brooklyn that are a part of the Gotham Health Network. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Okay. And regarding the vaccine finder, that is actually managed by the New York City Department of Health. And so it's not a New York City Health and Hospitals site. It is a DOH site. And so I recommend that if you have any concerns about the actual site, that you reach out to your DOH counterpart to assist in navigating what the issues are. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
Thank you.
Bridget. Oh,
In the
sorry.
interest of time, we'll
Kevin, go
facilitate
ahead.
any additional questions through the community board. There are a number of other registered speakers and we're beyond the time on this.
Thank you, Sean. Next speaker is Keisha White.
Good night. My name is Keisha White. I'm a board member for Community Tax Aid, which is a nonprofit. We've been preparing taxes in the New York City area for the past 50 plus years. I just wanted to let the community board know that this year, due to COVID-19, we are still offering free remote tax preparation services. In the chat, I'm going to include the link to the site where you can upload your documents so that we can get started on your tax return. And our income limits are basically the same as New York City. It's 35,000 for individuals, 56,000 for families, and we handle people all over the borough and all over the city. So if you know anyone who would like to get their taxes prepared for free, you can let them get started with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Beasley.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stefan. I'm Stefan from New York Presbyterian, Brooklyn Methodist Hospital, which is located on 7th Avenue and 6th Street in Park Slope, and in a few dozen New York Presbyterian Brooklyn medical group sites around the borough. And you can always check out nyp.org/Brooklyn for even more information about that. Just wanted to give a couple of updates. We have done a soft opening of our Center for Community Health, which is a 400,000 square feet facility right across from our hospital, which is now part of our hospital. We did a soft opening on January 25th. Where we started to do some oncology, infusion, and pre-surgical testing. I was actually on site that first week. And we also took great care in the design of the building to use some local artists in that as well. But we're going to elevate the practice to cardiology, orthopedics, gastroenterology. I always mess up that word. Comprehensive cancer center, women's health center, radiology, and a 12-room ambulatory suite. I know that there's definitely a lot of speakers, so I'm not going to take a lot of time, but two main events that we have that I'm going to actually throw in the chat right now we're going to have a talk about the COVID-19 vaccine from a standpoint of addressing folks' hesitancy and also addressing some outreach and education. We're going to have several clinicians as well as our COO, Alan Lee, of New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist. That's coming up very soon on the 16th. And then we're going to have a really great heart health talk that I'm very much looking forward to. It is geared towards seniors, but it's absolutely information welcome to all. And I think it's so important to also think about all of our other health outcomes, as we definitely still have COVID at the forefront. And yeah, so that is about it. We just want to stay connected with you. And our main focus as far as the COVID-19 vaccine is in our location at the Armory in Washington Heights. However, our clinicians from around New York City were sort of forming a small army of folks just willing to get out into the community and do even more talks and have even more dialogue. And so that is about it from me. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Anya, who are the next three speakers?
Okay, next speaker we have registered is Matthew Pitt from NYC Campaign Finance Board. I do not see him on the line, so I'm gonna, Matthew Pitt, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Okay, great. So Matthew Pitt from NYC Campaign Finance Board, followed by Nancy Lulu from Brooklyn DA's office, followed by Dwayne Esther Paul, civil court judge.
Thank you. Matthew, please proceed.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Pitt from the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Just here to remind everyone that currently our agency will be doing outreach to all voters throughout the city of New York to educate them and remind them about ranked choice voting. So if you know of anyone or any organizations or any groups within your district that can assist us with language access to LEP communities such as Yiddish or Russian, Urdu, or Haitian Creole, please feel free to have those organizations get in touch with me. My email is mpitt@nyccfb.info. I'll put my contact information in the chat room. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Lulu.
Good evening, everyone, Mr. Chair, community board members, district manager, Anya. Hope all is well. I bring greetings on behalf of DA Gonzalez to each and every one of you. The Brooklyn DA's office is very active. Our office remains committed to protecting our communities. I just have two announcements. Due to the surge of gun violence we have experienced in Brooklyn neighborhoods and citywide, Brooklyn DA Eric Gonzalez and the Attorney General's office, along with NYPD, teamed up and hosted another gun buyback event with no questions asked. The event was held last Saturday, the 30th, at Batista Healing Center in Brownsville. I would like to report that 48 firearms were turned in to law enforcement in exchange for prepaid cash cards and iPads, and now off the streets. With this gun buyback, we didn't just reduce the inventory of guns that are out there and can fall in the wrong hands. We also provided the community a chance to get involved and to send a message that ending gun violence is up to all of us. This program is a small part of our office's multi-pronged approach to reducing the shootings and making sure Brooklyn stays safe. So it was a success. Every gun off the streets, that's 8 bullets, 6 bullets to every gun. We make sure, that save lives. We reduce crime. We try our best. Okay, so it is Black History Month, and our office will be holding a virtual event and to honor Black History Month. Once I have more information in regards to the event, I will send it to the board. And finally, I just would like to remind everyone with the Action Center's phone number, if anybody has an issue or a matter they would like to address with our office, to reach out to the Action Center at 718-250-2340, and I could be reached at lulun@brooklynda.org. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Thank you. Okay, who's the next speaker, Anya?
Dwayne Esther Paul is next.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Community Board 14. My name is Dwayne Esther Paul. I am a Kings County Civil Court judge. I am down on 141 Livingston Street. I just wanted to give you an update about the court system, and if you have a pending case or if you don't have a pending case, what are the next steps that you can take, and information, contact information so that you can ask questions. And so the courts are up and running. We did go down for a brief moment and came back virtually, and we were taking emergency cases in all of the courts, family court, criminal court, and civil court. And so what, and in addition to that, Supreme Court and Surrogates Court. You are able to hear me, right? I think so.
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you have a case that's pending, you should receive a notice in the mail. If there was a date scheduled and it was in the midst of the pandemic, then your case was automatically adjourned. None of the cases were dismissed. If you have an emergency case, such as a matter involving custody and visitation, that's an emergency. If there's a domestic violence issue related to an order of protection, those temporary orders of protection and you wanted that final order of protection extended, then you can come back into the court and ask for an extension. Otherwise, if there was an order of protection that was final with a date certain to expire, then it may have expired. If it was temporary, then the court automatically extended it. If you have a consumer debt issue where your bank account is frozen or your paycheck is being seized, those are the type of things the court's considering an emergency. We did shift away from only emergency cases to do non-emergency cases. I will give you a phone number that you can call. If you have an attorney, you can contact your attorney and ask the attorney to contact the court to schedule a conference to get the case back on the calendar and see if we can get both sides together to resolve it. If you represent yourself, I will give you a number. You can also contact the court and see if there's a possibility that we can schedule the case. One or two things happens. We have virtual conferences via Microsoft Teams. Will provide you with the sign-in information, much like what we're doing now. And if you cannot appear through video, there's a phone number that you can call. In the worst case, if you cannot get access online or by phone, you can come into the building. And what we've done is we've set up a conference room where there's a clerk, a court officer, and a monitor where you can do a video conference with the judge who is physically in a different room in the same building. So I will provide you with the phone number.
Thank you. If you would put it in the chat, your time has elapsed. Thank you.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anya,
I'll also put information about the Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act, which has been extended for 60 days. So I'll put it all in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Anya. Who is next?
The final three registered speakers are Lisa Derrick from Assemblymember Bishat Harmelin's office, Elizabeth Boisman from Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board, and Melissa Corbett from Canva Housing Legal Services.
Ms. Derrick? Lisa Derrick?
It looks like she may have dropped off. She was just here a moment ago, so if you want to move on to Elizabeth Boisman from Brooklyn Solid Waste.
Lisa's actually still there.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. Yes.
Hi there. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the board. Good evening to the chair. Good evening to the district manager. Thank you for having me, allowing me to speak this evening. I'll be very quick. I wanted to share with you all an event that Assemblymember Rodney Bishat Harmelin will be hosting tomorrow evening. This is an event on the COVID-19 vaccine. It's a webinar. We're providing information to the community. There's still questions out there. I know that there's a lot of moving parts of when you can and where you can receive the vaccine and what's involved in getting the vaccine, how effective it is, etc. So we'd like to provide some information to the community. So we will have three panelists who will be speaking. We'll have Dr. Wayne Riley, the president and CEO from SUNY Downstate. We're going to have Dr. Andrew Wallach from the New York City Health and Hospitals Corp, the chief medical officer for the ambulatory care. And we will also have we will also have Dr. Mary Foote, who is the Senior Health Security Specialist at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. We will have a Q&A during this session. If you are interested in submitting questions for the panelists to consider, please send your questions to ad42@nyassembly.gov. Again, that's ad42@nyassembly.gov. I will also add that to the chat. You can go onto our website to get additional information about the seminar. It's from 6:30 p.m. to 8:00 p.m. tomorrow evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Derrick. Elizabeth Roisman, I'm sorry.
I don't believe she's here. If we want to move on to the next speaker.
Melissa Corbett.
Good evening. Yes, I'm here. Sorry. Good evening. I think you can all hear me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Good evening. So, my name is Melissa Corbett. I'm with Canva Legal Services. I don't know why my video won't come on. I apologize, but since in the interest of time, we'll not worry about it. I also, Miss Love's counterpart, there goes. I'm her neighbor over at 20 Snyder Avenue. I'm with the Legal Services Department, and I just wanted to come and share that we're providing, free legal assistance and counsel to people in Brooklyn. So for your friends and family, folks and neighbors who need assistance with housing law, immigration law, consumer or foreclosure issues, I just wanted to give our phone number, or I can drop it in the chat as well, but I'll give it real quick and drop it, 718-287-0010. There's also a housing hotline. So if people are having landlord-tenant issues, we're running a housing hotline at 929-491-7313. And again, Campbell Legal Services. Thank you all for your time. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me, and I can drop my email in the chat as well. Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Corbett. Let's try Elizabeth Roisman once again. Ms. Roisman, are you with us? All right, then that then concludes our public session, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you entertain a motion to adjourn, I think that we missed the opportunity to acknowledge that we have been joined throughout the meeting by Police Officer Michael Joseph from the 70th Police Precinct Community Affairs. So we just want to give a shout out and thank him for being here with us.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt.
Now,
go ahead. I'm sure everybody's eager to go.
No, it's a welcome interruption. So now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Moved and seconded that the meeting adjourn at 7:44 p.m.
Everybody have a wonderful night. Stay safe.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you,
All
everybody.
right, thanks everybody.
Good
See you all
night.
later.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Alvin.
All right, good night.
Night, Alvin.